Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop on this fine summer eventide. What are we doing today? I got no fucking idea. I know I don't feel like doing fuck all. Well, let's have a look through the pile, see. I have a quick wee-boo at the in-progress pile here, see what jumps out as us, sticks our fancy. Tickles our bits, as it were. That's not even, there's also all the oh, fuck. I was looking for that to send to Buddy Gnu. Probably thinks I'm a dickhead. Well, even more of a dickhead. It's on its way. I found it. Stage 1. Got some interesting stuff from the usual scumbags. 50 some odd cc infernal combustion 2-smoke chainsaw. This is neat. Buddy Gnu sent me that. It's a torque unit. He also sent, was it that? He also sent an actual proper, what do you call that? Dynamometer. Yeah, dynamometer. Gotta get that all together. Oh yeah, the old Predator, or not the Predator, the stage below the Predator generator. That looks like a good job for somebody else. Bunch of stuff here. Some shit I don't even... Oh, that was a gift. That was a gift. A birthday... No, a Christmas gift. We'll get... I'm aiming for Christmas 2025 for that one. We'll let her age proper. Something... This... oh, here we go. A weird tool. Let's do this one. Holy old fuck, I can barely stand myself. Not to worry. I got the medicine here. A bit of a stumble at the start gate on account of the dingus end. No surprise coming from France. The dingus end is all buggered up. Wrong size. What for sticking in yonder pixie receptacle. Interesting point though. That handsome young unibrowed fella what does the spark tests. Electro Boom. He had a video about this. In North America we got a stupid system for plugging in, because if you have, let me see here, if you have the dingus end plugged in and is not fully engaged, you're showing you have a lead here. Sorry about that, let me focus a little bit. You have a lead here that's sitting at 120 volts and a lead that's sitting at ground potential. You drop something in there, if you touch it and you're in the bathtub, like a poor unfortunate lady recently had an accident and died because she had touched in here, and she had low resistance due to the water on her membrane, her outer covering, skin you call that. She got electrocuted. So he was doing a video about that, but cute little feature here on these guys, if they're not fully engaged, there is a dielectric plastic on there so you can't get electrocuted. Now, here is the thing about these in North America, which is kind of stupid, is that because of the, oh, what's that word? What's that word? You look at these, okay? They look like a cute little face. That's called paradolls. Pareidolia. Sorry, pareidolia. There's an easier word. Anthropomorphize these to look like faces. But really, if you wanted to be technical, the ground lug here should be upside down. Then it doesn't look like a cute little face. Of course, everybody wants a cute little face looking at them because we're humans. So these actually are supposed to be upside down. And if they are installed upside down, the way they do it in hospitals, if ever you touch something or drop something on there, it is far less likely to short out because it's just going to hit the ground lug. Everybody in every kettle in Christendom is plugged into a receptacle just like that. The wrong way around. Now this is a Bosch Green PRR 250 ES. It is a flap wheel grinder, and this will come in very handy. You don't see these very often. If you do, they're Metabo and they're big bucks. This just come out of the oh, whatever French place I bought that. I can't remember the name of it, but it just came out of there. Cheap, 99 euros or 90 euros, something like that. So let's get into her in any case. And sweet endorphins. Okay, Oh yeah. What do men and beer have in common? They are both empty from the neck up. Off the cord here, very flimsy as you'd expect on account of its double the voltage. I mean, it's half of the current. So it can be quite small. Molded end piece here. Just looks like your typical thermoplastic jacketing. The case itself reasonably stiff, which you'd want because it is a long tool and you're going to be putting pressure on the front end of her. It's PA6 glass fiber reinforced, so nylon with glass fiber reinforcing 30%. Put it right on the outside of the tool. It's like we don't even need to look inside. It's interesting that they would put that material spec on the outside. You think that the typical user is looking for that? I don't know, but another one. What do men and coolers have in common? You load them right full of beer and they'll go anywhere. Having a look at the tag here, of course, just a craptacular plastic tab. You give her a whiff of brake clean and she's gone forever. Made, surprisingly, Stuttgart, Germany, double insulated, Chinesium excrement. Gotta be a cool dude to use it, and you have to read. Son of a diddly thing. You see the person what put on the sticker. 0 fucks given. It's about as straight as a dog's hind leg. And we're in like sin. I might have fucked myself, well, beyond my usual regimen, even. Because there's electronic control in here, it might not take the lower 120 volt voltage we have here in North America. Might only run on 240, 220. Nice small conductors for that higher voltage, lower current carrying capability. Nice Phoenix contacts. Terminal here, a big mylar or polyester capacitor for reducing the amount of noise going back into the grid. Of course, that noise would be induced from the switching of this very likely MOSFET, possibly triac. There is speed control, and as is their wont, where is it? Over here. Yeah, fucking schmoo everywhere now. There's speed control, and as is the German or maybe even European want, it only goes to 6. Ostensibly, because 6 divides into 360, one rotation, 6 times. It divides perfectly, and it just happens to have a nice tactile feedback. However, this one does not do a full turn. So why there are 6 delineations, still a mystery. Now on the macroscopic view, it looks pretty well built, but then we get into the details, more granular, and we see on this chintzy plastic, the size of her, chintzy plastic strain relief, you've also got this little guy here doing double duty, well, triple duty. It's the strain relief, or strain relief. It also holds the wires, and it also presses down on the PCB to affix it into its position slots. So there's not all that much positive affixment we can see here. This is a very, very Spartan design. Spartan in that it's cheap, not that it's particularly strong or warlike. Now this here is worth the price of admission because the chintziness is engineered chintziness. It ain't gonna fucking last in a shop. This is a distinctly hobby tool. Very little use. I'd be surprised if you could get 50 hours out of this. These are the brush holders here, thermoset plastic. You see weeble wobbling all over the place. Might be held in place a little bit by the casement. The casement is, as I said, quite rigid, so it might be good that way. But if you just look at the way this thing moves around on its own, absolutely cringe inducing. Now, no brain box on here. I don't see a blob on board at all, so that means this is all analog. We have a potentiometer feeding into some sort of trigger circuit for this triac. It can't, I don't see it being a MOSFET because there's no brain box to trigger it when to turn off and on. And then this, what is this? Well, that's, oh my God, that's the back bearing. That's no magnet. It's the back bearing. Mein Gott. Now we got the armature out. You can see it's very light duty, lightweight, very small windings here. Of course, it's half the ampacity that we're normally used to. So smart 608 bearing, bog standard. They're in everything, so they're super cheap. The compound, the brush compound, you can see very, very soft brush compound, wipes right off. They do have some epoxy on the stake-ons, but quite frankly, I think that's for cosmetics because the thing is not going to last all that long. Looking at the general arrangement, here's the field windings here, some light plastique, just ready to melt off. Yeah, so thermoset plastic here won't melt, but this stuff definitely will melt right up against the, right up against the field. Laminations look fairly thick compared to that Makita anyway that we just had a part. Here's the back bearing. I was shocked and dismayed at. It actually ain't T-bag. It's just because it was weeble wobble in there, because it's out of its casement. It kind of threw me for a loop, but it is a roller bearing. It's not actually a ball bearing, so it's yeah, it's in its own little Buna N condom hard, and then over molded with nitrile rubber. We have our balancing slots here cut out on the mold itself. You see the mold is fairly in good nick, I would say. It's been hand polished here, you can see, and all the ejection pins, nothing wrong with that. They're not all gnarled up. So the molds are in good shape, what make these. Now here's a cute little feature you wouldn't immediately think of if you wanted something canted off to the side. You'd sort of think of some sort of universal arrangement, just some weird gearing or something. But this is very clever. They've got the pinion here straight, and then they've got a helical. Well, no, it would have to be spur cut. It wouldn't be helical, but it's spur cut on an angle so that it engages perfectly, even though the pinion input is a typical straight involute gear. This guy is an involute gear that's been cut on an angle. Now we'll try and get this out. There we go. Did a little bearing, spur gear in there. Same thing. It's driving on. How does that work? Oh yeah, a crown gear. There's a crown gear in there, and it meshes with this guy on this little tiny bearing. Cute feature. What for getting it off? I was trying to screw the hell out of it. It turns off. It just needs a gentler touch. It is ball detented. It just goes on like so. Very telling here. We've heard that Bosch Green is nothing compared to Bosch Blue in skookumness, and we can see the chooch factor on this switch being as it's just a craptacular little rocker switch. This is where the 200-pound gorilla meets the load, and yeah. Getting into the head of her a little further, we took the G-less clip off. It's very interesting. You're gonna like this. I looked at it, I was wondering why you'd have a coupling on a straight shaft, and then there's no spider in there. It's not a coupling at all. It's a one-way clutch. It's a Sprag. I assume, well, the thing is, the way this comes, see, it's detented that way, so you don't have to screw it off. So it's interesting that they would add that feature on there just so it doesn't back drive. Maybe they had these intended to screw these, but in the end came up with a different system, but still kept the same drive mechanism because the wheels were in motion and can't stop the magic now. You shoot the gun, you gotta cock it type deal. If I can get that back together. So that's interesting, because if this outer housing is held, then this guy doesn't turn. You have to drive it through the gear in order for it to turn. Now this is cool, this Sprag clutch here. I don't know why they did it. Let's get in here. Focus, you fuck. We'll back off here. Franchement, il y a des limites à tout. Let's go. So that drives, you can't see that. Cinematography 101. You kind of want to see what you're demonstrating. You see we're driving that pinion. And that pinion's driving a bull gear, no problem. Now if we try and back drive it, we'll just hold this guy in. She locks up tighter than a nun's. Being on account of just about out of beer, well, we're just down to the hangover here. I learned that trick from a Frenchman. You never drink the bottom. That's where the hangover lives. I'm gonna go get me another moose head, and yes, it tastes just like it sounds. You wouldn't like that kind of beer unless you're like me and you choose your beer out of spite. But we'll meet back here. I'll get this back together. You get yourself a beer. I'll get myself a beer. And we'll meet back here. I always find interesting warts and boils as you're getting her back together. Another case in point here. There is no mitigation for dust ingress into the bearing from the brushes. And also, of course, you get the fan blowing in there, and it's an abrasive tool. You're making abrasive dust as you use the thing. Also, right in here, right up against here, all this UV coming off the arcing and sparking of the brushes. Plastique right in here. Does not look UV normalized to me. Yeah, and the whole casement, yeah. It's all signs point to yes. It is not a prosumer tool. Alright, we fucked that fucking fucker right off. Weird healthful dingus end. Nah, we'll get this, I'll make sure 0 is off, I hope. We'll stick her in a kilowatt. I'll see if she can't fart and let the smoke out. Contact. I'll make sure this is on. Oh, there you go. It's turning the right way. That's very interesting, because at full stall here, we're only getting 120 amps, which is dead nuts on the label. If you lean in close and careful real listenly, you can hear in the far distance the ululating cry of tool nerds everywhere, the gnashing of teeth, the rending of flesh. Y'all can't test at half voltage because you only get a quarter of the power. I can't believe my wife let us name our firstborn daughter Uncle Bumblefuck. Unsubscribe! You're right. This test, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, but that's okay. We're going to run it on the proper voltage. That'll give us 4 times the power, and we'll see how much torque use she actually has. Don't consider myself much of an electrician, but I do LARP one, the first Wednesday of every month. We get the old cab tire and paperclip routine. Key or decked. Who'd have thunk it? It works! We'll move over here to the steel fornicating section. I want to keep the Empire, well, the important bits of the Empire, relatively conductive, dust free. And I say relatively. That thing works like a hot damn. You know what? Well, we'll get to that. The thing's got age. Here's a tool with my buddy, well, my YouTube buddy in Saskatchewan sent me. Pretty freaking cool. Comes in handy for things you wouldn't think it comes in handy for. We're going to test her out on the Torque Structomatic, but you know, it's got to come up to temperature. She puts a nice chamfer on her, so named after the brother of Zamfir, master of the Blue Vein Piccolo. but it just doesn't have the power what a grinder has. So you put a flap wheel on a grinder, it's going to give you more chooch for your chotch. However, in this case, because of the shape of the tool, it occurs to me that this would be really, really useful for surfacing and just giving, graining certain metals like aluminium and give it that nice, what do you call that? Well, there's a sanded look. I'll show you. Maybe not. The problem is with this, because these are all cut, it leaves a line in there. You got to get these solid. Conveniently, they give you the adapter kit in one of these drums just to wet your beak a little. Get you a feel for what it can do. Fortuitously, for Bosch, you got to rush out right fucking now and get different drums on account of this being far too aggressive. 80 grit being far too aggressive to put a nice surface on this here aluminium. Now, having run this at the proper speed, she does have quite a bit of torque. Is it as beefy? Is it going to remove as much material as a grinder? No fucking way. It's only 250 watts, even at the rated voltage. So, bit of a light duty tool. You could stall it out if you were really, really reefing on her. So this is more of a specialty tool for getting into odd locations. So like I tell the wife, you can never have too many tools, especially for getting into real tight spots. But this has very limited use. If you have a use for it, like say you're one of them sicko carbohydrate foam workers, that wood elves, I could see this being real useful for getting in and around weird spots. As far as metalworking, yeah, it's not nearly as beefy as just a straight old grinder. It doesn't, the material removal rate's not even close, but it is a special use tool, usage case. So you pull it out once in a while, and it might last you. I don't think, you get a hired hand on this thing, and he'll let the smoke out pretty damn quick, I would say. The Bosch Green doesn't seem to be built as to the higher standard that the blue is, at least in my opinion. So, there you have it. If you see this in 120 volts, you got some nasty itches to scratch, this might be the cock for dolly. Well, at least until it lets the smoke out. Thanks for watching. Keep your dick in a vice.